Hello and welcome. Thank you guys so much for watching. Super excited to talk to you guys about the top 5 beginner motorcycles for under $3,500. Now, I've spoken to a lot of friends who have never ridden before, but they're interested in getting started. And I'm trying to build out some resources for you guys so that this process, getting into the whole two-wheel life, is something that's easy, it's affordable, and that you feel good about getting into it. So without further ado, let's get started. But if you're new to the channel, I'm going to ask you a wonderful favor. Take a moment, press the subscribe button just below me. If you have time, hit that thumbs up as well. That being said, let's get started. Coming in at number 5. Now, I ranked this, before I even say what it is, I ranked this at number 5 because I'm hesitant to even call this a beginner bike. We have the Suzuki SV650. So, the SV650 is a 650cc V-twin liquid-cooled engine. This bike I'm going to reserve for those who have either had experience on dirt bikes in the past, that I know that a lot of new riders have, or any experience whatsoever on a manual transmission in a car. Now, it might sound like, apples to oranges, but I think if someone has the concept down of how to respect a clutch and how to ease into the gas and things like that, then we can consider this bike. It's super affordable and it's been around since like 2003 or even earlier. There's 2 models. There's the S, which has fairings, and then there's the regular old 650, which I personally like, which is more of a naked style. It's likened to a poor man's Ducati Monster. Super affordable, super available, lots of aftermarket availability, and there's a lot of power to grow into. So this isn't a bike that, you buy and that you get tired of immediately, because there's so much to learn on it. It's in the naked segment, which is my favorite segment of bike, which has a great balance of comfort and performance. Yeah, overall it's a fantastic bike. I would rank it higher, but we're talking about a beginner's ranking system, and for that reason alone, I would probably tell you to look into the next options before you go into this one, unless you have some experience. Alright, coming in at number 4, and this might be controversial here, but it's going to be the Harley 883 Sportster. And I'm going to ask that you guys do anything above 2007, because that's when they got fuel injection. We can talk a little bit about that. The reason I put this as number 4 is because it's not as easy to find for $3,500, but it's been done. I've done it. It's a very heavy bike. However, if you know that cruisers is the way you're trying to go, the 883 is a wonderful introduction to cruisers. It has a massive aftermarket available. It's kind of like the Jeep Wrangler, and then it's been around since the 80s and it hasn't really changed much. So you can find any type of build imaginable. There's aftermarket availability for it. So for those who like to tinker and modify, great platform. It's fuel injection if you get a 2007 and above. And why is that important? For those of you who live in colder climates, you often will store your bike for several months. In a carbureted bike, which one of the bikes in this ranking actually falls in that category, you have the issue of gasoline sitting there for a while and clumping up and clogging your carburetors. And since this is a beginner ranking system, I imagine that you want to spend more time riding than you want to do wrenching. Fuel injection, if that's available in your options, I highly recommend fuel injection. It's also a bit more smoother with the gas because it's a computer that's calculating how much gas to give instead of an old-fashioned spring and jet. So fuel injection is the way to go. Going back to the Sportster 883, however, it's not ranked higher because of its weight. It's 589 pounds with all its fluids. So you got to be very careful when you're maneuvering at low speeds. Also, I feel like you won't get the experience of maneuvering tight corners and taking tight turns and things like that because of how heavy it is. One of the pros is you'll get a lot of respect from people on the street. I've ridden my Z1000 and I've ridden my father's 883, and I get way more looks on the 883 than I do on my leader bike. It's super respect, super classic, and you can't go wrong with it. Coming in at number 3 is the Honda Rebel 250. If you find a 350 for below 3,500, go for it. But I'm saying the 250 because we're staying within budget here. Number one reason, cheap, cheap, cheap. These bikes you can find for less than $2,000. There is the ability to modify them, and that's great. However, I don't think you're going to want to hold on to them for too long. It is a cruiser style Honda, which is super reliable, and it's 320 pounds with all its fluids. We're shedding more than 200 pounds in the Harley. You can crash it, you can kill it, you can burn it, and you won't be out of your money because of how cheap it is. It's a wonderful introduction to cruisers because of the riding style, and we're talking less than 2,000. If you want one that's clean and running well, probably 2,700, I'd say is a good range for it. My only gripe with it, it's not the prettiest bike. In fact, I'd call it the ugliest bike out of this list. But once again, if you're a beginner, you know, the bike's not gonna be pristine and perfect. Probably gonna take a fall. If you don't fall, the bike's gonna tip over. So you don't want something that's super nice. Think of a 16-year-old in their first car. You're gonna give them a Lamborghini? Probably not. So the Rebel 250 offers just great price entry point, super forgiving power band, and the availability of modifying if that's something you wanna do. There's some great bobber builds on this bike throughout the internet. Coming in at number 2, and this bike has a special place in my heart, the CBR 250R, or once again, if you find them, the 300R. This bike was my first ever motorcycle. And at the time, it was 2013 when I got my 2012 model, and I was ecstatic to be on a bike like that. It is so good looking for the price. Like for a small bike, it is extremely reliable. It is a fuel injected single cylinder 249cc engine. The single cylinder, you might feel yourself wanting some more power pretty soon, but for a beginner, especially those who live in cities, excellent bike. You get to navigate, the gears are very short. You'll be out of first gear at like 12 miles an hour, and so it gives you the familiarity with running through gears. It's lightweight, it's nimble, it's got the sport bike feel, but it's also not super aggressive. So you can get really comfortable with leaning and tossing the bike side to side. It's a super smooth engine, it's fuel injection, so we're not worried about the carburetors. And it gets a whopping 77 miles per gallon. So, commuter bike, anyone? One of the gripes you're gonna find is that it has like a top speed of around, I remember it hit 93 miles an hour, but it was kind of at a decline, wailing it out in 6th gear. So it's not a fast bike, but if you're a beginner, you can get, if you really do the research and you find a good price for these, especially the 300s, maybe you ride it for a year and you sell it for the same price that you purchased it for. So we have reliability, we have affordability, we have just a great platform to learn on, and overall, great bike. I'm a little biased because it's what I learned on, and I think I'm a pretty decent rider, so look into those. Coming in at number 1, the best beginner motorcycle under 3,500, drum roll, the Kawasaki Ninja 250. Shocker, right? No. I'm going with the 2008 models and above just because of the looks. They are virtually the same as a 2007 and lower, but Kawasaki has this knack, at least they did in the early 2000s, of not updating their bikes. So if you get a 2007 or below, it's gonna look like it's from 97 or below. The 2008 model, however, had a facelift, some restyling, and this is by far the de facto starter motorcycle. You will find them any part of the world. They are extremely affordable. The availability of parts is probably only rival to the Sportster 883. It's a forgiving parallel to, which boasts a tad bit more power than the CBR 250. So in a straight line, if you and a buddy gets a CBR 250 and a Ninja 250, Ninja's gonna be slightly faster because it has 2 cylinders. So it gives you a little bit more room to grow. It's also lightweight, just like the CBR, so it gives you that ability to learn how to lean and get comfortable riding around. It's not too tall, so you can probably flat foot it if you're like me, 5'10" or higher. It is, however, carbureted. Not a big deal because we're talking 2008 and up, so you got relatively new carburetors. If they've been running, which these are often passing from owner to owner, so they're pretty much always running, you shouldn't have any issues. But kind of feel it out if you're going to see a used version of it. Make sure it's running, make sure it's starting all right. It gets a 61 miles per gallon, so it's gonna beat your Prius. And this is just like the Rebel 250 in that you can buy it, ride it, thrash it, and sell it for either the same price you bought it at or at a profit. These sell like pancakes, y'all. So the Ninja 250 has everything a beginner needs. If you drop it, so be it. You've paid less than $3,000 for it, and you can still sell it, even dropped, for pretty much the same price that you paid. I call this the best beginner bike out there. They've been around for super long. They're extremely reliable, affordable. The possibilities are truly endless with the Ninja 250. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed the list. It might be controversial for some of those who are out there watching. If you think I missed one, comment down below. Remember, keep it below 3,500. I didn't go with any brand new bikes because I'm thinking, more on the budget side. But all in all, there's so many bikes out there, and if you're thinking about riding, I wrote a blog about the steps you need to take to start riding into motorcycles. That'll be in the link in the description below. Check out the website, subscribe if you haven't yet, and thank you so much for the support. See you later.